Hello and welcome to another one of my videos. Now today I'd like to continue with part 2 of this expired 24-hour ration pack. Now I want to take a look at their lunch and dinner components. So in this video let's get these out on a tray and see what their lunch and dinner looks like. And welcome back to part 2 of this 24-hour Russian I.R.P. Now this is part 2. If you missed part 1 where I did the contents and the breakfast, please go back and check that out first. This is part 2 where I'm going to take a look at the lunch and dinner components. So to save a little bit of time, I've already got what I would consider lunch from those components out on the tray. And for lunch I'm going to keep it very simple. We have a simple cheese and a pate. We have a fruit and nut cereal bar. There is some crackers left over from breakfast. There were 4 packets, but as you can see, still have plenty of crackers left over from breakfast, so why open the others? And I just have a spoon and napkins. Now, in part 1 you've seen the coffee was compromised, so I tried the tea. There was only 2 teas and a coffee and a fruit drink. I've tried the fruit drink, I've tried one of the teas, so now there is nothing else for me to try, so I'm just having water. Not a lot of drinks in this ration, but obviously all troops carry water. So nothing to heat here, so I'm going to go straight off and start opening the main content. So this is the pate. So cold lunch. Oh, that didn't open very well. Let's just bring in a knife just to help with that there a little bit. So not the easiest opening pouch, but very well secured, so hopefully the contents are still good. As we remember, this is over 6 years old, 4 years past its best before, so hopefully meat pate hasn't turned. We'll now have a look at the cheese. That opened a little bit easier. Again, a very simple looking cheese there. The crackers, as we discovered in part 1 or video 1, have actually gone past their best. They're very stale, but just about still edible. And I'm going to look at this fruit and nut bar. First time I've had one of these in a Russian ration. Be interesting to see what they're like. So it says on the ingredients list prunes and walnuts. Sorry, hazelnuts. I'll get it right in a moment. Prunes and hazelnuts are the main components of that. So put that to one side. So before we start, just a little drink of water just to refresh my palate. And go straight for the mains. So straight off we have this pate. So like I said, this is the one I'm concerned about. 4 years past its best. It's the pate which is likely to suffer, I think. So quite firm. It is a cool day today here in the UK, so it's a reasonably firm pate. Slight liver background taste. Not sure. I think that is rancid. Excuse me. Just had to make sure. That has, as I feared, turned rancid. Need to clean that off the spoon. I did fear for the pate. Liver. Offal. 6 years old. Was always doubtful. Just need to. It's quite an offensive taste. So, I did swallow a little bit. I hope I'm okay. No botulism hope in there. It is a smooth, creamy liver paste pate. The liver did taste in the background. I think it's chicken and liver probably. But unfortunately, that is rancid. And I daren't try any more. So, we'll move on to the cheese. Hopefully this is fared a little bit better. Nice, relatively soft cheese. It has got a little bit of bloom on the top there. The cheese is okay. Possibly slightly more matured than normal. It's soft, it's creamy. I've had this before. This does seem a little bit more matured, but apart from that, it's a soft, creamy, mature cheese. Again, I'm starting to get a little bit of rancidity coming from there. Very hard to tell. I'm not going to have any more of that also. There is a slightly rancid flavour coming to the back of my mouth now. It is a soft, creamy, as you can see, almost white cheese. There is a background rancid flavour to that also, which is now starting to develop. So, unfortunately, on this occasion, I would say both the cheese and the pate have suffered. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. There's a sort of a background. Oh. Hopefully, those small amounts haven't done me any harm. So we'll move on, have a look at the date and the nut bar. So as you can see, it's nice and dark. Hopefully this is okay. So it's a dark bar, tear open. Not very sweet. I did just say date and nut. I think it's prunes and nuts. Compressed, dark, rich. Not the sweetest bar out there. Dry, easy to chew. Very similar flavour to, in the UK we have fig rolls. In the US I know you have fig Newtons. Very similar flavour to the centre of those, but without the sort of pastry surround. But it is an energy rich, dried fruit and nut bar. Just not the most flavoursome, not the sweetest. So take a look at one of the wet naps. There is two. I've seen these before. The green is supposed to be for the utensils, green for green, and the white for your hands and face. I am just going to take the white one. They are both the same. I don't think there's any issue of mixing them up. I don't think there's any different chemicals on them or anything like that. They're both the same. So nice, stretchy, very similar to the British off the beaten track, but not quite as big. Nice and strong. Little bit of moisture. Not overly wet now, but it is a moist, strong. That's why I pick my face. No smell, no noticeable odour, just a moist, thick, strong wipe. So, overall, very disappointing for the lunch. I think both the pate and the cheese would have been good components if they had survived the time, but unfortunately they've both got a rancid aftertaste. So, join me in a couple of seconds when I come back and take a look at their evening meal or supper components. And welcome back to this third and final meal from this Russian 24-hour I.R.P. And the final meal contains the beef and potato stew. There is a beef or stewed beef on its own, so I thought the two beefs would go well together. There is also a couple more of the stale crackers and salt and pepper left on standby. Now, as I did, if you saw my part one, the buckwheat porridge I've had before, and I've found over the years they always work better cooked over a stove, so there was a bit of heat on the bottom of the pans and it sort of acts like a frying pan. So I've done the same again with this, not on the stove, but I've actually fried it. So this beef and potato stew has been fried, so I simulate cooking it in the tin. I've also boiled this one. This is just beef in fat, so I thought that would be okay, just boiled to get red hot. So you need to carefully open this. It does feel like there's an awful lot of fat swishing around in there. It's also very hot, so I do need to be careful not to get it all over myself. Well, there is a lot of fat there. I do have another bowl. I don't know if you can see, there's an awful lot of fat. I'm going to need to drain some of that away. Wow. So I'll bring that back to you to show you in a moment how much fat was actually in that. So we'll peel back the... Obviously eaten cold, that would have been beef fat, just to eat cold. But there is still, I don't know if you can see, a very large amount of molten fat in that meat. And if I bring in the other bowl, you can see the amount of liquid fat that poured out of that pack. So a very, very fatty dish. Hot, obviously most of that is melted. Cold, it would have been like a lard. So just take the lid off the beef and potatoes. So it's had a fry, very nice, very hot, very warm. Like the lunch, I'm just going to have water because there was only a tea. Not a lot of contents I'm discovering in this ration. I'm not sure if this would feed a hungry soldier 24 hours, but before we start with a fresh clean palate, another sip of water, and we'll have a look at this beef with potato stew. As the name suggests, it is just beef, ground beef, potatoes. I can see some carrots. It looks like there might be a little bit of onion in there, some carrots and onion, but they're all mixed together. Let's have a taste of this. Very soft, very, very easy to chew. The potato shreds are well cooked. Again, I think frying, because the amount of beef, was the best way. Otherwise I would have ended up with a whole load of liquid fat in there. It's basic flavours. Basic beef, basic potatoes. The fat has gone into the potatoes. The potatoes do taste fatty, but not like they've been swimming in it. Difficult to taste carrots, but they are in there. Onion, salt, pepper. I wouldn't suggest anything else. Just again, very, very basic, simple flavours, but it is filling, comforting, and basic flavour most people would enjoy. Now let's have a look at a piece of this beef. So very much typical canned styled stewed beef. It's chewy, it's soft, very little texture left. You can tell it's meat. A bit stringy, a bit like pulled pork, pulled beef. If you can see, it has the texture of a pulled meat, pulled pork, pulled beef. Try a little bit with an extra with those potatoes. That's the way to eat it. Mixed with the potatoes, giving a little bit extra more meat. Quite a lot of fat. I am going to mix some with the fat in those potatoes, so a little bit of that fat goes in there. Obviously what was in the bowl I think would have been far too much, so that's moistened everything up now. And a little taste of that. Plenty of fat, that's enough. Any more it's going greasy. So filling, comforting, heavy reliance on beef and fat, but it is a tasty, enjoyable evening meal. Crackers, obviously, again, would go well as a backing cracker for the meat. It's very soft, Very past their best. You could also, I assume, dip those crackers in the fat, soak up some of the fat juices, but gone past their best. Not the best. So, overall, apart from a few sundries, there is 3 more packs of the crackers, a couple more full packs of sugar, some wet naps and a tea left over. There's very little else to this ration. On opening it, I thought there would have been plenty of food for a 24-hour meal for a hungry soldier, but after having eaten it, I'm not so sure. I think an active soldier would still be hungry 24 hours living off this particular ration. So, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification button for future videos coming very soon. So thank you and goodbye.